Matters. So, earlier we had Avita and Ken explain to us why they joined the audition. Now, next to me we have this set of costumes. And we invite Ron, the costume supervisor for this production, to explain to us what are these costumes like and how did you make them? And let's start with this one.
Okay, this is the Gumby coat.
Which is the one that Avita's wearing.
Which you're familiar. Yes, this is her character costume. This is the costume that she wears to her special performance that she's going to put on at the start of the gathering of all the cats. And then she will put this on.
Wow, okay.
And over the top of that, she will then put this on.
Now, let me ask you, how heavy is this? It looks pretty heavy.
Okay, it is quite heavy. I guess it's probably about 10 to 15 kilos.
Probably it's not very cool to be in this
No, it's not
pretty hot.
It's not very cool.
Right.
It's cool to look at, but it's not so cool to wear it. Again, all hand knitted, probably about 40 man hours to just do the knitting of it, not actually building the base.
Wow.
In underneath. And again, the costume is labour intensive, hand painted with all the pattern, hand beaded, and then fringed.
What about the black ones over here?
The black one is Mr. Mistopheles, which is sitting over there.
Ken's.
He starts off in his basic unitard, which he wears for most of the show, and then for his number, which is his the big number, he then changes to this beaded unitard and tail.
Ooh, that's the white gloves that he's talking about.
Which is
white
the
hands,
special
right?
number where he comes down. And then over the top, he will wear this jacket, which is a light-up jacket, which he will operate himself. And there's something like about 300 very small lights that he will operate himself.
Is there a switch inside that he can turn on?
There are two switches, which is here. Final one is McCavity.
The evil cat.
Which is the evil cat. Again, hand painted. This fibre is actually broom fibre, so it's quite flexible, although it looks quite nasty.
So all of these costumes are actually made in China?
Mostly, yes.
Most of them.
Yes.
Thank you, Ron.
Okay.
That's very nice explanation. Now, I just want to ask you, how does it feel like to put this one and to put this one on top?
At the very beginning of the rehearsals, I didn't put the coat on. Now, towards the end of the rehearsal, I do need to put the coat on.
What about yours? Is it to put it on, to have it off? Like, does it feel restricting, or it's something you have to just get used to?
I only tried once of the big costume, big jacket. And it's really heavy.
It's really heavy.
But it's like once you put the costumes on, you feel more into the character.
Cool. Okay, so I'm going to invite Joanne, who is the director, the main person for this show, and to come and talk about, some of the production process behind it. Okay? Let's welcome Joanne.
Joanne Robinson, the director of the Chinese version of Cats, has been part of Cats for 31 years. She's participated in the production of 14 versions of Cats, including the original, which debuted in London.
Thanks for being on our show.
Thank you for asking.
And we feel very honored to have you here because you are one of the original members of the original production of Cats back in London.
Yep.
And how many years ago was that?
31.
Okay. Now, what role did you play at the time?
I didn't play a role. Okay. I knew that I had to take care of the show, and I was being responsible for Gilly's and Trevor's work. And I had to make sure that if there were any understudies, that they had to be rehearsed during the day. And so working from 10 o'clock in the morning and then having to go and perform 8 shows a week, it would have been... And I just wanted to concentrate on more of the other side, the directorial. Yeah.
But you started your career as a musical performer?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what was the very first show?
I was the back end of a cow on point in a pantomime.
Really?
It's an English tradition. Every Christmas there's pantomimes. And I also understudied the fairy. Now, that was when I was 16 years old, 17 years old.
Fairy godmother.
But that was my first professional show.
Okay.
But my first musical was in the West End, was a show called No No Nanette.
Oh, okay.
And I had to tap.
Oh, wow.
So it was was, yes.
Was it a challenge for you as well?
I was trained in every form of dance.
Okay.
It wasn't a problem.
What about the singing part?
No, that was a little bit more difficult for me. Singing was not my forte, I have to say. And so, yeah, I had to learn, and I had to really, really listen.
For Cats, per se, is it more of a dance-intensive or singing-intensive show?
Well, if Fizz was here, he would say he's the musical supervisor here. He would say, singing! And if I'm here, I would say the dancing and the acting. Without T.S. Eliot, who wrote the poem, the possum, there would never be a Cats.
Right.
And then without Andrew, there would never have been a musical.
Right.
And without Trevor, there wouldn't have been the inclusion of Grisabella. It's a combination of things.
Many things together.
And I just don't think you can say one is more important than the other. They are all important, including, Ron's just spoken about the costumes, including the designs, because without John Napier, the show wouldn't have been set in a rubbish dump.
I guess that detail wasn't really included in T.S. Eliot's poem. It's something you have to recreate,
not at all. Yeah.
Right.
Even up to the opening night, Ron was talking about the costumes being hand painted. John Napier was actually standing there painting the people before they went on.
Wow.
To shape their bodies and shape the costumes.
I think Cats has been in everyone's memory for so long, but you are one of the forerunners of the first production. I'm wondering, like, for example, did all of you guys raise cats? You guys have this innate passion for cats, so that it's easy for you to turn this into something very vividly visual?
With any product that you have, whatever you start off with, whether it's the set of poems, whether it's just music, whether it's just the written word, whatever you have when you've got a production, you're going to do your research. So therefore, when I was first asked to do Cats, I went, I like dogs.
Did you have dogs at the time you raised dogs?
I had dogs at the time. I didn't have any cats.
Okay.
And I went, I think I better do some work on this before I actually go and do the work.
So how did you do your research?
Well, I started reading about the physiology of the cat and how the cat moved and how it, how it was built.
Right.
And working with Gilly Lynn, the original associate director and choreographer, we used to go home after rehearsals. Rehearsals didn't finish at 6 o'clock. We used to go back to her house, and we would have dinner, and her husband actually at the time would sometimes cook the dinner for us, and we'd be sitting there still working. And she had 2 cats.
Oh, she did have cats. Okay.
And she used to get me in the middle of a meal. Quick, look at that position. And so she would get me to lift my leg or put it on, and I'd be on the front. And she said, "No, how about this?" And we'd be rolling around. I tell you, we got indigestion many a time. It was just,
wow.
Yeah, it was tough, but it was fun too. It was good.
What about you guys? Do you guys have cats?
I had a little cat when I was a young girl.
Did you guys have to do your research and study cats as well?
As I know so far, 3 or 4 of our colleagues starting to raise a cat, and I think a couple of them they already have cats before they join into this company.
Okay. As a dancer, is that a huge challenge? You have to kind of forget about what you learned in the past and learn
definitely.
new.
And trying to dance the way like cats, like how cats moves, like use different muscles, like we have different warming up class, like join and made up. That's the special class.
You do find, I have to say, when I first started working on it, you go home and you go, I didn't know I had a muscle there. And I think, is it the same with you?
Yeah.
And what I also try and get, everybody actually ends up with really strong stomach muscles. Because
so much of the belly movement.
Well, it's that if you look at, again, the anatomy of the cat, they're really sucked up in the stomach. So these guys go home and they have got strong stomachs, strong butts. I tell you, their bodies change.
Actually, would it be possible to, you being a director, direct them on a certain moves? Maybe I'll let you guys go change, and then we'll do a little bit of live demonstration with the audience member. Okay, we'll wait for you. All right, so I think Avita and Ken are ready. Joanne.
Okay, now we have Miss Stowe and Jenny Anydots. Just come in. And the improv, just sit and listen for a moment. Just sit and listen to the improv. Just going to wake up, scratch, stretch, clean, and then the first thing that you need to do is to find food. So you've got to find a sleeping position first. Just find a nice sleeping position. I'd go on the sofa if I were you. Go on the sofa. Stretch and clean yourself. Just remember that cats clean in places that we can't clean. Yay, that's it. Food.
I think the magic cat is not having much luck. Oh my goodness. Very good, thank you. Wow, that was a really amazing performance. So you learned about all these movements from Joanne's instructions?
Yeah, and also we got a book. It's called Chinese called 猫的宝典 at the beginning when we into the company.
And everybody, including Joanne, Sharon, and everybody brings pictures of cats, and it's full about wool.
Now let me ask, you've done cats in Tokyo and the London production, and now in China. How do you think a show like Cats will be received in China, or musicals in general? How is it received in Japan versus in the UK or other places?
Some audience they bought the tickets for like 3 months as raw. Like
And they just watch the show every single night.
Yeah.
In
And
Japan?
and also some of the audience they bought presents and food every night for all the cats. Yeah.
Did you have this in London, Joanne?
Not really. We don't have this as much. No, you don't get. You get some fans. I mean, some shows I've done, the stars are inclined to sort of get presents and gifts and flowers, and they get their regulars who come once a week or once a month or whatever. We did in Korea. I know in Korea we had a...
How was the reception in Korea?
Amazing.
Really?
Absolutely extraordinary.
But you guys, that was an English production?
Both the English and the Korean production. Because we did a Korean language production there as well.
Do you think people would receive it much better if it's in a foreign language, in a native language that they're familiar with?
Yeah, because everybody comes in and goes, oh, Cats, it's a lot of people going around.
Show.
Yeah, it's a fun
kids,
show.
maybe
And they think
even.
of colour and movement. But it's got much more depth than that. Much more depth. What I was going to say was it's actually easier for the audiences to
understand the substance if it's in their native
the content
language.
when it's in their own language. What we try to do is utilise some cultural differences so that it would be appropriate for the song.
So for this particular production per se, is there something that you try to change or heavily edit to fit into the Chinese appreciation?
One example I can use is in Peaks and Polycores, which is an extraordinarily difficult number, actually, I have to say. One of the English translation is he slipped into the Wellington Arms for a drink, which is the Wellington Arms is the name of a pub. Now that would have no connection whatsoever with the church. Absolutely, had no. And I can't speak. Do you remember that line?
刚好在杏花村喝了一杯。
Hudson, okay. So they localized the pub to make it something that Chinese audience will recognize.
Absolutely, and will connect with.
I have a question. So you auditioned Avita and Ken at the time, and
Yes.
among all the thousands of, I think, audition members. Why these two?
Because they're talented.
Was there anything in particular that you looked into them? Especially, and you had an idea of this is, Ken is going to fit into this, and Avita is going to fit into this character right away?
Not right away, no.
Okay.
No, because I mean, certainly Evita is capable of doing more than one role, and so it was a question of which would be more appropriate for her. It's not only Evita, for instance; it's also the other people within the show, the other contenders, if you like, the other auditionees. It's a balance because you have to get the different characters. You have to make sure that the characters don't merge, because if they merge, then it's like people, audience. There's not one single person that is exactly the same. We don't have a set of twins in the audience, and so everybody is slightly different.
Well, we're going to take a break, and then I think Sharon, the choreographer of this show, is going to join us, and we can talk a lot more about the dancing part of it, and also I think Cats, in comparison to other, famous musicals in Broadway and the West End. Okay, so stay with us.
When I first saw the show as a child, my auntie took me to see it as a little girl.
I certainly don't speak Mandarin. I've tried.
Right.
Believe me.
Vitality.